Alright, so when I start out, what I've done is gone through previously when I was in hotels and traveling and whatnot, and actually got a lot of the PCB board ties pre-cut. You can see, probably, I don't know if you can read it on there, what I did. Again, I don't say that my number system made sense, but I started off with a number 1, that's the throw bar, number 2, an H and an S, because that's what they're actually called here. For the number 8s, I've been adding the H. You don't have to. I did it just because it's such a long span from the S tie down to here, and that's a single solder joint down to the next double one's here. So I just add it. Again, I don't think it's necessary, and I'm sure the fast track guys will say it's not necessary. I get it, but it's you know, another 20 seconds, and I have a little more support on the larger turnout. These two here being number 5s. I don't know why. I think before it was 1, 2, 3, 4. These would be 5, but I called these H and S. So anyway, the numbers don't matter. I know what they are, but use your own numbering system. A number 6, and I call these far end. So they're all pre-cut in these little handy bags. So all I have to do is pull them out, put them in the fixture, and then get ready to go. So that's one thing that'll save you quite a bit of time, because that's a lot of time. Don't underestimate the amount of time it takes to get all the ties cut to size and the gaps cut, and then all the rails filed, your stock rails filed, your frogs and points, guard rails. All my guard rails actually are in here. Way back in the beginning, I did all the ones I'm going to need, so they're all formed, so I can just pull them out. So basically, you get everything pre-cut, and then when you go to make a turnout, you load the fixture, get the rails in, and away you go. So more to follow. Alright, one thing I definitely recommend, again, it's totally up to you, but I do not use what they show for the entire length of the throw bar. Way too long, and they're way too big. They're nowhere near prototypical. I'm not faulting fast tracks, it's just you need something to solder the ends of the points onto, which is fine. But what I do is take a piece I've knocked off from the other ties, make it basically as small as possible. I don't want to have a whole lot of it showing. The first couple I did were way out there, and you're going to wind up cutting one side anyway. And you don't really need that much of an ugly thing sticking out. What I'll probably do, you'll have the ties out here, obviously, for the switch stand or the motor, depending on what kind of turnout you're doing, a hand throw or a motor operated one. But this big ugly thing sticking out, you just don't need. I'll put some smaller wire in there, or put nothing in there. It looks better than this big ass ugly thing sticking out here. So I mark it. I'll cut it, give it a quick file. I will scribe in the center cut there, so it's not a short, and that's also where I drill the hole for the tortoise. So again, totally up to you, but I did not like at all using that full length PCB board tie throw bar. Alright, so now all the ties are loaded. Again, the throw bar has been cut down quite a bit, and I apologize for the lighting. I don't have studio lighting in here, but hopefully the information gets across. Cut it down, scribe the center there, and that's where I'll drill the hole for the throw bar, or for the tortoise, and all the other ones are in. Again, like I said, these two here, let me see if I can get a little bit of light on that there, get out my shadow or something like that. I don't know what's going on here. What's interesting is just make sure you have this one that's gapped here, and this is gapped too. They're the same length, but this is inside the frog, and this is outside the frog, so it's very important to have that one there. Similar to over here, this one's inside the frog, this one's outside, so you need that gap right there. This is inside the frog, so it's just gap there and there. And if you forget, you can always add them later. I've done that. I had one, if you saw one of my earlier videos, where I forgot this, and sure enough, had a short and tested up and fired up the layout. So, all right, so that's done. All those are in. Now we'll get the rails in. Now, in terms of cutting the length of the rails, again, and this is mentioned on the fast track videos. There's this one of the templates set on there, line up with the throw bar, so you can see you want the rails. Pretty much, you bring them to the end of the fixture. You're going to be good here, and then you want to bring them a little bit past. What I like to do is bring them far enough past so I can actually solder another PC board tie out there to give it a little support, because it's soldered here, and especially this rail, it's cut, so it's only soldered on there. Now it is glued in with the plyo bond and everything, which is fine, but just for a little more support, I eventually do that. Now, that's for a standard switch that you might want to pre-make that you know are just going to sit in amongst other trackage. It's not tight. If you're tight, if you're doing unique things, you want to measure these, and you might extend these out quite a bit more to line up with the next switch, especially if you got a situation on a ladder or something like that. You don't want to have a turnout end here, have the next one start here, and have to put a tiny little 1-inch piece of flex track in. So measure them up. I did, like for my ladders, I measured everything and cut every single piece of rail to size. But for this particular turnout, which is going to go in the transformer factory, it's going to sit in the middle of some other flex tracks, so not a big deal. So I don't need to extend it. But just keep that in mind. One of the nice things is you can customize this. And as I showed you before, I'll show some samples on the layout. It's very easy to run longer lengths of rail out, add some more PCB board ties in, and it fits in nicely. And it's all continuous too. So you have a lot better electrical connectivity and less rail joiners, less joints to worry about. Especially if you wound up at this end with your next turnout perhaps sitting here and you got this little itty bitty piece. Boy, that'd be a pain. All right, FYI, then we'll show the rails in place. All right, there's the rails. I didn't put them. I just want to talk a little bit. You can see how far I extended these for a standard turnout. The 2 stock rails that are cut. One thing I noticed, it probably won't be really visible, so I won't even try to show it. But I did use the typical stock 8 tool. Works well. There's a video on their site, on the Fast Track site, how to do it. But I think since the number 8 is removing a bit of material, some of these can be really wavy. They come out of the tool and they're bent, and I was panicking, but I think that's just the way it is. For the number 8, it's just a little bit more material you're taking out, and they tend to be a little bit more bendy when they come out. But they've all worked fine, so I just dress it up the way he does it and put them in a fixture and solders up. And again, that's why I added this here, just to give a little bit more support on the length of that piece of rail. The frog it's pre-soldered. I made these up ahead of time. I just sat it in there, but that's been already pre-soldered. And I did use a point form tool, a frog helper. I'm sorry, it's a frog helper. You just set them in there and solder them up, and that's only because I bought a bunch of stuff from a gentleman on eBay, and this was included. I actually bought it because he had a number 6 template, which I did not have. I had bought a number 8. So I bought it in some other tools and whatnot. So pretty good deal. So I used that. Although you can do them here in the fixture. I've done it both ways. Either way is fine. The point rails, again, the points, these are filed here at the end. He's got a good video that shows that in detail. Be careful. The ends will kind of get very fragile. And often, almost every one, I'm cutting them back a little bit. And I probably don't have the right type of lighting like he does to show it. But yeah, I'm not even going to try. But his video is good. But the ends are weak, and you will have to cut them back and then dress it up a little bit. Now, interestingly, these, think about it, these are always going to be the same size. So for your turnouts, you can cut these ahead because they always go from here up through the frog, and you're never going to come, well, I shouldn't say never, might be a case, but they're always going to be the same, where the stock rails and the frog rails, both ends can extend based on the track work. You can custom fit that stuff. But these, once you know the size you're going to use for your turnout, you can make them all ahead, because they're never going to change. I shouldn't say, oh, sorry, never. They most likely will not change in size. I can't think of when they would, because you got to have it come up here to the frog and to match the other side of the frog there. So now you could cut it real short after here, depending on how you're blending in the track work, but this is going to be the same. So, all right, let's load it up and get to work. All right, so there it is in the fixture. That's how I start. I put the 2 stock rails in, hold it down with some of the tools there. They're great to secure the rails in the fixture. And then what I'll do is I'll start with the S and the H, get those soldered in. I'll do the number 1, I call number 1 here, and then I'll come up here and I'll get this, because these are both double solder joints, so I'll get those done. Then I'll go back and do the singles. Then I'll come back and do this one, which is a single. And for this one, you got to be careful, because you do want to make sure it's pushed out against the fixture there. Just be very careful on that one, and then come back and finish up on those. And then those get soldered in, and then we'll go to the point rails. All right, just a real quick note on the solder. The solder that you get from Fast Track's good stuff. but I ran out of it, and I think it's a little bit pricey. It's about $5, I think, for one of these. And when I first bought it, I bought some, and then I went back and bought some more. Usually when I was buying other stuff from them. But I ran out of it, and I said, you know what, I need a bunch more. I don't want to run out. So I actually went to Mauser and bought this 1-pound spool. It works fine. I think it's the same stuff. I didn't really check specs. What this all says is it's 020 diameter rosin core solder. This is 6040, and this is 6040 rosin core 020 diameter solder. A pound of it. So I probably could build turnouts till the Earth-ending asteroid hits us. In a pinch, I was trying to finish up some before the stuff came from Mauser. I did use this Radio Shack. It's a little bit bigger diameter, 032 diameter rosin core, but it worked. There was a switch. I had 5 more solder joints to finish, so I used this. So it's probably fine. Although the smaller diameter is nice for doing this. The only drawback to this, it's a pound, and if you want to hold the reel, you're in there soldering, it gets a little annoying. So sometimes I cut pieces off. The one nice thing about this is that it is a much smaller, lighter package. You get 15 feet in here. And you can do several turnouts with it, so I'm not saying it's a horrible deal, but obviously cost-wise, it's much better to buy a huge spool like that. The only thing about this, it's coiled up inside. You pull it out, and it works for about, I don't know, maybe I might get the 2 stock rails in before it catches on itself. You wind up, popping the cap, and it's always getting tangled on itself. Every single one I've ever had's done that. Again, not a knock at Fast Tracks, but the concept's great. You can pull it out and control it, but it always gets caught. For me, every single one of these got caught. I had to pop the top, rip the solder out, and was swearing and yelling because you're soldering and trying to pull it out, and all of a sudden it gets looped around on itself. Maybe it's just me. I could be an idiot. I don't know. But anyway, so for the solder, again, I went to Mauser and bought some 6040 rosin core 020 diameter solder, a pound of it. So I'm good to go. Alright, the 2 stock rails are soldered in. I'm not going to show all the soldering, that's kind of boring, but those 2 are in. And now we're going to move on to the 2 point rails. Okay, the point rails are in. You mark them here, and you do a little notch and bend them, and you follow this little chamfer just like it shows in the videos. One note for what I'm doing, do not solder it to the H tie, only the S tie. Again, I put that in there just as personal preference. Make sure they fit nice here at the end. I just put this on just to hold them down because they tend to spring sometimes till you solder them down. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to get these all soldered in. Okay, for me personally, what I like to do next, the points aren't yet soldered. I think the instructions show that. But what I like to do is get the guardrails in, because these little buggers are a pain in the butt. And he does give warning in his videos, and he's very right. Make sure they lay flat. What I'll often do is take a brush, clean out just to make sure there's nothing in the groove there. And then when I solder it in, I'll solder one, and it actually come up with my finger, kind of like he does. You don't really burn yourself. It's surprising, but and make sure it's nice and flat, because they will roll in there. And then usually I'll give them a quick check with a gauge. Although to be honest, after building about, let's see, where am I here? You can see where I am. I'm down to, I got 17 lefts, and I got 2 more. I'm working on this one right here. That's the right hand that we're working on now. Probably gonna do 1 more. So I've got a lot of these, so I've kind of got comfortable. Maybe complacent is a better word. Not always checking with the no-go gauge and whatnot, because they've always come out fine if you get them flat. And also you test them with a wheel set, and I'll kind of roll that when we get this done, and that tends to catch any issues too. So, all right, here we go. Gonna get the guardrails in, and then I won't stop. I'll just then I put the points in, get that soldered in, and then we'll give it a quick check with the gauge and some wheel sets, and then we'll solder the points here, and then we're pretty much done with the soldering. Okay, I didn't quite solder the point in yet, but I brought it in there. And then what I do is I just roll a truck through there. This is you'll see it, call it the Unfine, the standard, I guess, the NMRA would tell you. I don't know what the hell it's called. It's a normal truck, and that goes nice. Now I do also have one of the semi scale fine threads, whatever they're called. I don't know. And this is just to see how it goes. It does, and you probably won't be able to see it because again, I apologize. I'm not a videographer. I don't have the greatest light, but the wheel will fall slightly in there. I don't know if you can see that. If this is gonna be able to focus on it, but just a little bit. And I have these moved all the way up as far as they can go. And again, I think that's just the way it is. See that? I don't know if you can see how it just ever so slightly. It's going into the gap that's right here when it rolls over it. Now maybe that's something I'm doing wrong. I don't know, but again, you might be able to hear it if I'm quiet. It's just that wheel just as it rolls through, and then before it catches on the other side. And it's only with the finer threads, the semi-scale ones, that it does it. With the normal ones, it doesn't. You hardly even notice it at all. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can hear anything there with it's a handheld camcorder here, but and that I don't even feel it, to be honest. Where you can actually feel it when you roll the other ones through. But you know, as far as I can tell, you know, these are formed right. I had these, you know, bent at the right location and the frogs right, and so far over in the layout, nothing's derailed. So it might just be the way it is. And I'm not planning to run with the semi-fine wheels anyway. I'm gonna just use the normal wheels, just because I'm not gonna go out and replace everything with the semi-scale. So all right, now to solder in the rest of the frog point stuff there. Okay, so we got that soldered in. Standard truck rolls through it nice both ways, so it's of course I get on the rails. Oops, seems nice. I did check it, and he shows how to do this probably a lot better. That his videos are higher quality than mine. With the no-go, just to make sure. Oops, I did check that, and I checked the flange ways. Yeah, as he recommends. It's hard to be with one hand to show that, but I did check it. It looks good. Again, I think I've gotten complacent. I don't always do it because I found that every time I did it, as long as I set things up very similar, it's always seemed to be fine. So now we're going to move down here to the points, and what we're going to do first is in the fixture solder in the straight one, and then take it out of the fixture, and I'll show you just what I do to get the diverging point soldered in. Alright, for soldering in the point, the straight one, again, you can do it in the fixture. You put a little piece of paper in there like he shows, and what I'm using this is it's a cat calendar that my wife has, and it's I don't know, it's not waxy, I guess I'll call it. It's got a little bit of a feel to it. It seems to work fairly well. I just so I'll save this cute little guy here. He'll be cut to pieces in a bit. Just little pieces, and I actually use them several times. You get it in there just like he shows, and then solder it up. Alright, so here to set up, again, use through the tools as weight, have it in there in the fixture, a little cat calendar paper in there. And then actually what I'll do is I'll come in with the soldering iron with my left hand, which is a little unusual, but I've gotten used to it. You know, get it in there, get it on, and then use this, which is a scratch all I bought at a hardware store. Like it a lot. And come in from here, and then once the solder's still wet, you know, remove the iron. I'll use this to hold it against the stock rail so it's nice and tight. And also, of course, make sure the throw bar or rod is, or tie as it is in this case, is set, you know, roughly in the center, because now you're actually going to solder it. So this is where you want to adjust that. So we'll get this one soldered in, and then we'll take it out of the fixture, flip the fixture over, and get the other side done. Alright, there's the one side. There's our paper. Don't worry, it won't stick in, or it's always been fine for me. First time I was a little nervous, saying, "Oh my God, the paper's gonna..." No, it's fine. So that's the one side is done, and you probably won't be able to see anything there, but get in there, take your time, get in there good and hold it good, let it get, let it, flow along the rail a little bit and get in nice. And I've never had an issue with it, coming behind. Once or twice on the early ones I had to do a little bit of cleanup, but usually I'm doing okay, I guess. So now we're going to take out the fixture and we're going to solder the other side. Okay, here's the setup for the diverging route point rail. I use just a piece of electrical tape just to hold the rails down. Put another weight up here to hold it in. Get it lined up. This I'm using actually against the throw bar to keep it firm against this stock rail. You got to make sure, otherwise this gap will be off when you get it soldered in. And again, I apologize for the light here, guys, but that's solidly against there. And what I found, I know what Tim recommends is to use one of the PCB board ties in here as a spacing. I've gone to a slightly larger one of their actual main line ties. I found a couple I did where this spacing was just a little bit too close and some of the wheels were picking it. Although the nice thing about it, I actually fixed them on the layout because it's all soldered, so I came in very carefully. Heated it up, let it get wet, put a little more solder, and just moved it slightly. So that's about where I'm setting it. Probably not as prototypical, but again, to me, I want the damn thing to operate right. And that is this space right here. Again, I had some of the wheels were picking it, so that's fine. It's probably a little bit more than I need, but I'd rather just have a little bit extra there and have no issues, as opposed to fine-tuning it to make it look super perfect, because to be honest, we're not really that rammy about it. So, but we are rammy about it operating right and not derailing. So that's going to be good. So now we'll get in there again. I'll come in with my left hand, get the soldering there, get it flowed in. Use this here to hold it down till it sets. So let's do that and see how it looks. Okay, there are the points. I also did go in there and whoopsie, whoa, come on there, camcorder. Darn it, sorry about that. Did file them a little bit. It's hard. I'm holding with one hand, so I can't really show you what they do. You can get it filed, and you can get them to sit in there real nice and tight against the stock rail. It's very nice, very nice. One other thing that I do, one of the things that they show you in the videos is right here in the frog is kind of stick the tip of your soldering iron in there and get some solder in there. I do that. I just don't know if it works all that well. So I also come to the back side here, and then just give it a shot. Lay the iron in along here and just get some solder flowing in along that tie, because as he shows, if not, that frog could move up. So there's pretty much the turnout, the fixture ready to go. Although, however, sports fans, we are not yet quite done. Okay, yes, it's that wonderful time we have to cut the gaps in the frogs. What I do is put it in my little device here from Dremel, and then using this this particular saw here, coming here, feed it through, cut the gap there, and that gets that done. And then you clean it up, flip it over, use the wire brush, use an X-Acto blade to make sure it's cleaned out. And then when that's done, you do need to be careful, because, like I said, especially on this rail here and this rail here, once you cut that gap, that solder joint's the only thing keeping those rails in. So you just want to be careful, because if you would hit it or go to bend it, you could ruin the turnout. Not that you couldn't with the other ones as well, but they have a lot more support on them throughout the turnout. So we're going to get those cut, and then there's one more thing to do. Actually, two more. Okay, gaps are cut, cleaned up a little bit. Be very careful when you cut, because when the blades break, and they will. In fact, I was cutting this one and I came through and I bumped this rail a little bit, so but no major harm. But have lots of extra blades, because you will break them. Let's see, that relatively good there. See a couple little hangers in there I want to clean out a little bit, but and one thing that I tend to do is use the use the brush to clean it, but one thing, word of advice, get a lot of these. They don't last, at least the ones I'm using, and I've bought oodles of them from Fast Tracks, and these are just from a local hardware store. They get grungy. I don't know if you can see there at the end of the bristles. And I noticed after maybe 2, maybe 3 turnouts, you're cleaning up and all it's doing is just moving gunk around the turnout. So you're going to go through a lot of these, so buy extras. So you definitely need to buy extra these or the brushes. You need to buy extra of the hacksaw blades, or I'm sorry, the saw blades for your saws, because you're going to break them. So, all right, one more thing to do. The part I hate the most, I don't know why, but I do. Drilling the hole in the throw bar. I use the tool, the stuff from Fast Tracks that he sells. It's fine. Little pin vise. I have plenty of pin vices, but I just got this as part of the kit. That's actually the bigger, the second drill bit. That's the one that clears the larger, I think 039 rod for the tortoise. Drill a pilot with the smaller drill bit, then come through with this, and that takes a surprising amount of time. I'm not talking hours, but it's doing it by hand. You're talking a little bit of time. It's more than I thought it would be. So be prepared for that. But you drill through with the smaller bit, follow through with the larger one. Then we'll give it a good clean up and get ready to glue it into the quick sticks. Alright, so there she is. Got the hole drilled there for the throw bar. Get a little bit of cleanup. Often I'll take some isopropyl alcohol and rub it down. I'll use my little, just to find any stubborn spots, any flux that's stubborn in there. Give it a good cleaning. Though I find if you get a good clean wire brush, it does a pretty good job. And be honest, on several of them I didn't even bother with the alcohol because it got them pretty clean. So that's pretty much the hard work. I guess I can go ahead and check off the one of those right-hand turnouts, but we'll go through how we get it glued up just to show that, and then that'll be the official time I can mark it off my list. Okay, so here's our quick stick ready to go. Again, you gotta knock out the H and S tie. That's because I use both of them. Again, you don't have to, but again, that kind of shows you. That's the normal S tie, that's the H tie. I just put it in there just to give it a little more support because it's a pretty long on a number 8 turnout. It's just my choice, again, not needed or not required. I'm sure the Fast Tracks guys will say you don't have to do that. So here's the stick, and since we're doing a right-hand turnout, I'm actually going to use it this way. And one other thing I do is right in here, I just take those there, a 120 and a 400, and just give it a quick little sand where the points are going to go. Again, not needed, and I'm not saying you have to do this, and I don't want Tim Wares coming after me, but I just kind of go in there just right along the inside there where that point rail is going to move, just so it's nice and down a little bit. Then I just kind of smooth it up with some 400 grit, just so it's nice and smooth. And then what we'll do is we'll get the plyo bond out, which the contact adhesive, and then that just sits in there. I'll check again to make sure that the points go. So now it's just a matter of getting the good old, getting the plyo bond out and put it on where it belongs. And be careful, you don't want to use too much. The first couple ones I did were a little messy, kind of like ever build a model when you were a kid and you always seem to get glue everywhere. So I'll get that in, and I use this particular soldering iron, one of my dad's old Sears Craftsman ones. Kind of gunked up. I was going to throw it away, but I decided to keep it to do the vulcanizing like he shows. Again, just to come in and hit it, and you'll hear that nice little sizzle. So we'll go through and do that, and then we'll show you how we finish things up and get ready to install it. Alright, so the plyo bond is on. And I'll be honest, I do as neat a job as I can, but I always have some that seems to ooze out. I just don't have a steady hand as they seem to have in the videos. But let it sit there a couple minutes. Have the little applicator tip. Funny thing, if you see my videos, I'm not afraid to buy tools and that kind of stuff. I've had that particular cap for every single turnout so far. So I don't know why a 3-cent cap I've kept it so long. But I just stick an old one of these micro brushes with the applicator tip off, pulled off inside it, and it stays great. It doesn't stick to it. This cleans up. So I've kept the same damn one the whole time. I don't know why. So let that set up for a few minutes, and then we'll flip it, put it in, and just kind of show real briefly how we go ahead and get it secured down. Alright, so there it is, flipped over and put in, and then what I do is I have several of these Microengineering old Railcraft gauges, and when I first set it in and just get it lined up, and then just to make sure, especially here at the ends, that it's engaged, I'll use this and then actually get it in place and go ahead and push it down and you know, run it along there and make sure that it's down. This way I know it's engaged. Not so much a big problem here, but these rails, if you're not careful, might be out of gauge a little bit. So again, doing it this way, I know that they're in gauge. Oh, by the way, do you guys know that little Star Trek humor here? Captain Jean-Luc Picard was a model railroader. Yeah, ever know that? You ever notice that? Ever see number one ask him, so Captain, what type of layout do you have there in your ready room? N gauge, number one, N gauge. Sorry. So I use these gauges to keep keep it all in there, and now what I'll do is just go along with the tip of the soldering iron, just like you showed in the videos, and hit several of the ties. Again, using the gauges as I move along to keep things in, and then final step is get it out under some weight before we get ready to install it. Okay, final step, let it sit there under these weights overnight. These are nice weights. I wasn't going to show it because I don't like to show stuff that people can't actually get, but I was lucky enough when I worked at GE Transportation over in Erie that they were going to scrap these, and I saw them, and they're nice. They have actually like a nice smooth machined edge on two sides, so it's good and square. And these are nice and heavy. I use them quite a bit for track laying and for holding these switches down. But again, unless you can sneak into GE Transportation and know somebody before they scrap something. But again, any other weights, you probably could use some of the tools, the point form or the stockade tools, even under perhaps the fixture itself to give a little bit of weight to it. I like to do it, just let it sit overnight. Again, I did go through and vulcanize it, not every single one, but a lot of it, so it probably would be fine. But again, not in a rush. Like to let it sit overnight just to make sure everything's nice and secure, and then tomorrow we take it out. We'll just go through some of the final steps and final inspections before it's ready for the layout. Alright, here we are the morning after. Just pulled the weights off the turnout, and now what I'll do is go through and most importantly check the operation of the points, just make sure that none of the ply bond every now and then, and this will be really hard to see. If it's on this tie here, it can get in the way of the points. So I'll just clean it up a little bit, and you might be able to see here a little bit of excess glue, and out here. Again, that's just visual, but I'll go through and just clean that up. It just scrapes right off with an X-Acto blade. Then we'll break it out of the quick sticks and give it one little sanding. I'll show you that, and then it's pretty much ready for the layout. Alright, so here's the switch taken out of just broke it off like he shows in the other videos. But one thing that isn't mentioned, when you break it off, you're going to have little protrusions from the ends of some of the ties. I think most of us would want to go back and clean them up. So what I'll do is I'll go back alongside the outside of the ties with a little sanding block, which I have behind me. But anyway, I'll go through and just touch that up with the sanding stick to make sure it's good to go. I'll trim the rails there. And this turnout, since I'm not exactly sure which side I'm going to have the ground throw, I'll leave this on for now. But normally, if I know where it's going on a layout, I'll go ahead and cut the ties, either on this side and this time leave the head ties out for support of the ground throw, the switch machine, wherever it might be. But give it a final continuity check, and then it's pretty much ready to go.